John Boyega has always been incredibly sensitive about his role in Disney Star Wars. Now, maybe that's because he thought that he could parlay this casting into becoming a megastar, and that really hasn't happened for this guy in any way, shape, or form. Maybe it's because he couldn't handle some of the criticism about the sequel trilogy. But every once in a while, maybe when he needs some more attention, he decides to bring up his role in Star Wars, and sometimes he's going after it, being very critical of the entertainment industry and Disney in general for how they treated his character. And sometimes he's taking aim at the fans. You know, the very same fans who were just so racist, they catapulted The Force Awakens, of which he was pushed as one of the lead roles in that movie, to $2 billion. Now, Disney Star Wars certainly continued to go downhill after that. Didn't end very well for John Boyega or for Disney when it comes to the sequel trilogy. But this is a common theme from John Boyega. And once again, he's speaking out, and this time he's attacking the fans again. John Boyega says his Star Wars debut as the first black lead faced backlash because the franchise is so white. And specifically, he took aim at all those toxic fans out there. Man, you'd think you would realize after all this time, it's probably not the best way to go about it, especially when there's a decent number of people out there that actually could have been interested in your character and thought that Disney did you dirty, but no, instead, you're going to attack the fans. John Boyega says Star Wars is so white that a black person existing in it is a big deal. Toxic fans are okay with us playing the friend, but we can't touch their heroes. Yeah, it's always so interesting when these criticisms come up and they completely disregard other characters that have been beloved by the fandom, isn't it? Very strange, try to downplay their entire roles. But let's listen to John Boyega himself.
They're pandering.
Let me tell you, Star Wars always had the vibe of being in the most whitest elite space. Like, this franchise is so white that it's like a black person existing in that was something. And you can always tell it's something when some Star Wars fans try to say, well, we had Lando Calrissian and had Samuel L. Jackson. It's like telling me how many cookie chips are on the cookie dough. I'm like, bro, they just scattered that in there, bro. They're okay with us playing the best friend. But once we touch their heroes, once we lead, once we trailblaze, it's like, oh my God, it's just a bit too much.
Now, let's go back a little bit to when he says, oh, they'll all point out all these black characters they love in Star Wars. But I mean, that's just like pointing a couple out. You guys are the ones that make this a fucking big deal. Oh, when Lando came in, it was such a big, it was 1980, and it was the second Star Wars movie in history. What most people feel is the best Star Wars movie, period, in Empire Strikes Back. And to just push Lando aside as, oh, he just played the best friend role. This is a motherfucker who destroyed the second Death Star. It'd be one thing if he was running around acting maybe as a sidekick to Han the entire, that's not what we saw. Lando Calrissian destroyed the second Death Star along with Wedge Antilles. And these two characters are some of the fan favorite characters that we've seen. Was Samuel L. Jackson in a best friend role? Did Mace Windu seem like a best friend role in any of these movies? No, absolutely not. And all of this is so ironic. And I'm going to go to Baggage Claim here, who retweeted this. What an awful take. Proves how disconnected John Boyega and the rest of Hollywood are from audiences. Star Wars fans absolutely hated how his character was treated and essentially sidelined to just yelling Rey every once in a while. We were rooting for you. Good job destroying your career harder than Disney ever could have managed. And I do think that's true. I think there's a lot of people, a huge amount of people out there that saw potential in this character. And oh my gosh, I can't believe they did this in The Last Jedi. Why did they make him do this in Rise of Skywalker? He could have been so much better. Now, I don't know if I would find myself in that department. I thought Force Awakens was an abysmal movie. Right? In 2015, even though I wasn't happy about some of the direction that Disney was taking Star Wars, I went to the theater, I gave it a chance, and I walked out with a lot of people thinking it was just the coolest thing ever, thinking, wow, I am never going to feel that way. I thought this movie was trash. I thought it was shallow. I thought it was hollow. I thought it was a house of cards that literally explained nothing, and I didn't find any of these characters particularly compelling. Maybe the idea of a stormtrooper like that could be compelling, but nothing they did in that movie made me invested in that character, thinking, wow, this character could be amazing. But that's just me. I think that Star Wars fans in general did feel that way and were excited to see that. This idea that there was just so much backlash to the first black lead, it's all based on a fucking lie. That's what it is. It's based on a fucking lie that goes all the way back to 2014 when we saw the first trailer for Force Awakens. Star Wars, John Boyega reacts to Black Stormtrooper racism. And there was a lot of discussion about that trailer, about seeing John Boyega's Finn as a stormtrooper. Did that stem from racist people who didn't want to see a black person? There's like 3 or 4 posts online that you could ever find of that specific thing back in 2014, 2015. The vast majority of the controversy was from, to be quite frank, Star Wars fans that have no idea what they're talking about. And the world is full of them. Normie fans, people who are completely uneducated, who don't understand, people who didn't understand that at this point in time, stormtroopers were not clones. That's what people couldn't understand. They thought stormtroopers were just clones. Some people thought that all stormtroopers were clones in the original trilogy. That's where a lot of this controversy came from. Not because we don't want to see a black stormtrooper. It was people questioning about lore. And they don't know what they're talking about. They were stupid. They were uneducated. But it had nothing to do with fucking racism. And of course, John Boyega made a big deal about it back then. Get used to it, buddy. I'm going to be around a long time. Well, guess it wasn't all that long. Your career wasn't around all that long either. I think the most notable thing he's been in lately was The Woman King. And that was a pathetic embarrassment. But this is just over and over again. Disney are the ones who decided to not really do what a lot of people expected with his role. Disney are the ones who decided to shrink him when promoting it in China because China might not like a black person that's this big on the poster. Disney decided to do that. Okay, so whatever your qualms are, the idea of putting it all on fans and being like, it's just such a white elitist place. John Boyega, you've bragged about being this massive fucking Star Wars fan. Remember when you were cast for Force Awakens? Remember when you were talking about how excited you were? I mean, I can go back, right? Let's go back and see. I'm in the movie, but as a Star Wars fan, I'm very excited. You've been bragging about being a Star Wars fan this entire time, yet now it's just such a white elitist place. It's weird that you were trying to get in this white elitist place by pretending you were a fan when clearly you're not. If what you're saying now is true, clearly you weren't ever actually a fan. And it's just fucking pathetic. You know, if Finn's character was a compelling character, people would love it. Right? If the sequel trilogy was full of these compelling characters, people would love it. John Boyega is the same dude who bitched and moaned that, you know, Disney, they gave Adam Driver all this nuance. They gave Daisy Ridley all this nuance. They made them compelling characters, but they left me behind. No, they didn't. Although people might feel that Kylo's one of the best characters that they introduced in the sequel trilogy, that's like being the tallest fucking midget. Nuance to Daisy Ridley's Rey? Do you think people are happy with their character arcs? Absolutely not. It was a shit show. And now John Boyega, who's probably miserable because he thought that this would catapult him into superstardom, is once again taking it out on Star Wars fans like a bitch. What do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments section below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.